Stop right there. Before you scroll away, let me ask you something that will redefine everything you think you know about women. Do you really understand how women think? Why their logic feels emotional and their emotions sometimes look like logic? Why a woman can say she loves you deeply today and act like you're invisible tomorrow? Carl Jung didn't see women as a mystery, he saw them as a reflection of the unconscious itself. He believed the female mind is not chaos, it's order from a different dimension. A mirror that reveals what men refuse to see in themselves. In this video, I'll show you how the female brain actually works, how women think and reason, and why most men completely misread their signals. We'll uncover Jung's hidden layers of the anima, the feminine force inside every man, and why misunderstanding it destroys love, attraction, and trust. First, we'll break down why women reason differently from men. Then, we'll expose how emotions drive female logic. Next, we'll reveal why intuition is their hidden weapon and men's greatest weakness. And finally, we'll talk about how to truly understand and connect with a woman without losing your mind or your identity. So before we dive in, subscribe and type "Shadow Unlocked" in the comments, because by the end of this video, you'll see that understanding women starts with understanding the parts of yourself you've been afraid to face. Jung believed every man carries an invisible woman inside him, the anima. She's not flesh and blood. She's your emotional compass, your instinct, the side you suppress to look rational. But here's the twist. When you don't acknowledge that inner woman, you project her onto real women. That's why men fall for women who seem perfect, gentle, mysterious, emotional. It's not her you love. It's your unconscious reflection in her. This is why you don't understand women, because you're chasing a dream born from your own psyche. Women are not mirrors of logic. They're mirrors of what's buried deep in you. Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." That's what happens when you meet a woman who stirs your soul. She doesn't complete you, she exposes you. So, if you've ever said, "I can't figure her out," the truth is, she's showing you the parts of yourself you've never dared to study. The female brain isn't chaos. It's the chaos you don't understand within yourself. Men mistake emotion for weakness. Women use emotion as a form of reason. Here's what Jung discovered: women don't separate thinking and feeling the way men do. Their thoughts are infused with emotion. Their emotion is their thought. That's why when she's upset, explaining logic doesn't calm her, it makes her feel unseen. You're speaking one language, she's speaking another. Her words carry the logic of connection, not correction. For women, decisions aren't just about what's right. They're about what feels right. You call it irrational. She calls it intuitive. And both of you are correct from your own side of the mirror. This is why Jung called the feminine psyche the eros principle, the drive to connect, to bind, to feel the meaning behind the fact. While men live in the logos, the drive to separate, analyze, define. When you argue with a woman, you're not debating logic. You're colliding with emotion that seeks understanding, not victory. And that's where most men lose. They try to win instead of connect. To understand her, you must listen beneath the words. Because a woman's reasoning doesn't live in her sentences, it lives in the silence between them. Jung said emotion is the language of the soul. For women, that language is fluent. For men, it's foreign. Think about this: when a woman walks into a room, she senses everything. The tension, the smiles, the hidden motives. She doesn't analyze, she feels. That's her radar, her survival tool. Men mistake that as overthinking. But it's not. It's ancient wiring, emotional intuition, sharpened through generations of social reading. Because for centuries, her safety depended on sensing what words didn't say. This is why a woman can tell when your tone shifts even slightly. why she can sense when you're hiding something before you even admit it to yourself. Her emotional compass doesn't just detect deceit, it reads alignment. But there's a price. That same sensitivity makes her vulnerable to emotional storms. What she feels too deeply, she suffers too deeply. If you want to understand the female brain, stop asking, why does she overreact? Ask, what is she feeling that I'm not acknowledging? Because emotion, to her, isn't noise. It's data. And if you can read that data, you'll never misread her again. Every man has seen this battle. You explain your side logically, she counters emotionally. You think she's avoiding truth. She thinks you're avoiding heart. Jung saw this as the ancient war of opposites, the logos versus the eros. Men seek clarity through analysis. Women seek meaning through connection. Neither is wrong. But when one dominates the other, the relationship collapses. When she feels you're detached, she pushes harder emotionally. When you feel she's irrational, you withdraw logically. Two polarities spinning further apart until love turns into defense. The female brain doesn't reject logic. It absorbs it through emotion. If she trusts you emotionally, your logic becomes truth. If she doesn't, your logic becomes manipulation. This is why you can't convince her with facts until she feels safe with you first. Connection must precede correction. Jung wrote that integration, not dominance, is the goal. To unite reason and emotion into balance. That's what he called individuation. And it's the only way two people stop being opponents and start being mirrors. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how a woman just knows things even when she can't explain why? That's not magic. That's intuition, the female brain's hidden operating system. Carl Jung called it unconscious intelligence. While men build understanding through step-by-step logic, women connect dots through emotional synthesis. Their brain links patterns, tones, and micro-expressions faster than conscious thought. That's why she senses betrayal before evidence appears. Why she can read the energy in your silence more accurately than your explanations. It's not paranoia, it's perception on another frequency. But here's what most men never understand. Her intuition is not an attack, it's her defense. She evolved to protect emotional truth in a world that constantly tried to silence it. When you tell her, "You're overthinking," she hears, "I don't value your awareness." When you say, "Calm down," she feels, "My perception is wrong." That's how trust dies, not from lies, but from emotional dismissal. So if you want her respect, stop defending your logic. Start respecting her instinct. When she says, "Something feels off," don't laugh, listen. Because that intuition isn't just about you. It's about everything she's ever survived. Now tell me, have you ever ignored your gut about someone and paid the price? Drop your story in the comments. The female brain doesn't just feel, it stores. Every emotion becomes memory. Every wound, a lesson. But Jung warned when emotions aren't expressed, they don't disappear. They become shadows. That's why when a woman finally explodes over something small, it's never about that one thing. It's about everything she suppressed before it. Women carry emotional debt, years of unspoken resentment, unmet needs, quiet disappointments, not because they want to, but because the world trained them to smile while bleeding. And here's where most men fail. You see her outburst and think she's overreacting. But what you're seeing is not an overreaction, it's a backlog of suppressed truth. Jung taught that the shadow, the repressed part of the psyche, will always demand release. If she can't express it safely, it will explode chaotically. So next time she breaks down, don't say, "You're crazy." Say, "Tell me what this really means to you." Because sometimes the only cure for emotional chaos is permission to speak. The female brain doesn't crave solution first, it craves understanding. And if you can handle that storm without defending yourself, you'll see the calm that follows isn't weakness. It's healing. Here's a brutal truth Jung revealed. Most people don't fall in love. They fall into projection. You don't see the person in front of you. You see the part of your psyche you've repressed: love, vulnerability, chaos, mystery. You project it onto them like a movie screen. That's why she seems perfect at first. She's mirroring what you lack. But when reality breaks that illusion, you call it falling out of love. For women, this projection runs even deeper. Her love is instinctive, not logical. When she sees a man with emotional power, she sees stability. But when that stability turns rigid or cold, the same instinct that attracted her now pushes her away. Men love to possess. Women love to merge. And both destroy what they idealize when the fantasy fails to match the truth. If you ever wondered why she changes after she gets close, remember this: she didn't change. The mirror did. The moment you stop reflecting the parts she was unconsciously seeking, her desire fades. It's not betrayal, it's disillusionment. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Love isn't blind, it's psychological projection, wearing perfume. To most men, women seem unpredictable emotional hurricanes that come without warning. But Jung saw that chaos as communication. When words fail, emotion speaks. When logic can't hold pain, energy carries it out. That's why women cry when angry, laugh when hurt, or go silent when they're breaking. They're translating emotions into the only language that can still be heard. Men misread this because they expect directness. They think, if she's upset, she'll tell me why. But her feelings are multi-layered. The anger might mask sadness. The sadness might mask fear. You can't decode that with intellect. You decode it with presence. When a woman spirals emotionally, don't counter it with control. Anchor her with stillness. Not the kind that dismisses, the kind that absorbs. Because if you can't stand inside her storm, you'll never be trusted in her calm. The female brain isn't chaotic, it's expressive. It doesn't break logic. It redefines it in real time. You'll never understand a woman by observing her behavior. You'll understand her by feeling the meaning behind it. That's what Jung meant when he said, "Feeling tells us what something is worth." And to her, everything is worth feeling. Women don't seek dominance, they seek resonance. Connection isn't optional, it's neurological. Jung wrote that the feminine psyche thrives on relatedness, meaning she doesn't just think, she feels through others. That's why emotional distance hurts her more than physical absence. If you go silent, she doesn't think, "He's busy." She feels, "I'm forgotten." If you argue without empathy, she doesn't hear disagreement. She feels, "I'm unsafe." That's why a woman can stay in love through pain, as long as she feels emotionally seen. But the moment she feels unseen, she detaches completely. Her brain's primary need isn't control, it's coherence. She needs her feelings to make sense within the emotional field she shares with you. So when she says, "We don't talk anymore," she's not complaining, she's saying, "Our connection is dying." The female brain doesn't crave dominance or submission. It craves synchrony. And when you create it, she becomes unstoppable. Let me ask you something. Why does betrayal cut women deeper? Because to her, trust isn't agreement, it's oxygen. Her brain builds safety through emotional predictability. When that predictability is shattered, it's not just heartbreak, it's psychological suffocation. Jung said, betrayal activates the archetype of the wounded feminine, the energy that turns love into armor. Once burned, she guards what she once gave freely. That's why when a man says, "It was just a mistake," she doesn't hear apology, she hears danger. Her mind replays every silence, every lie, every half-truth. Not to torture herself, but to rebuild emotional reality. The female brain isn't weak for holding on. It's wired to preserve the emotional map it once trusted. So if you ever break her trust, understand that you're not just earning forgiveness. You're rebuilding oxygen. And that takes time, consistency, and a kind of honesty that doesn't speak, it acts. Now tell me, have you ever lost someone not because of betrayal, but because of disbelief? Type "truth rebuilds" in the comments. Every relationship is a negotiation of energy, and no one understood this better than Jung. He saw that men seek power through control. Women seek power through influence. One dominates space, the other shapes it. That's why you can't overpower a woman emotionally. She'll adapt, redirect, and redefine your energy before you even realize it. Men fight battles head-on. Women win them sideways through emotion, tone, timing. This isn't manipulation. It's instinct power expressed through harmony, not collision. When she cries, she's not surrendering. She's shifting the field. When she withdraws, she's not defeated. She's rebalancing the power. If you try to win, you'll lose the relationship. If you try to understand, you'll gain her loyalty. Jung believed that true strength doesn't suppress the feminine, it integrates it. Because control can make her obey, but understanding makes her choose you willingly. Every woman is more than one personality. She's a symphony of archetypes. The lover, the mother, the queen, the rebel, the sage. Jung mapped these as manifestations of the great feminine. They're not roles she plays, they're energies she shifts between. When you understand which archetype is active, you understand her emotional state. When she nurtures, she's the mother craving stability. When she challenges you, she's the queen testing strength. When she detaches, she's the sage observing truth. Men go wrong by loving one version and resenting the rest. But a woman's evolution demands movement. She becomes many because life demands adaptability. If you expect consistency, you'll mistake growth for instability. If you accept transformation, you'll witness depth. Jung's point? To love a woman is to love an ecosystem, not a statue. To the female brain, love is not an emotion, it's a system. It's how meaning is built, tested. Jung said, love is the bridge between conscious and unconscious life. Women cross it daily. Men, only when forced. When she loves, she invests emotionally, mentally, spiritually. That's why her anger after betrayal isn't about ego, it's about wasted meaning. Her love wasn't just feeling, it was construction. This is why logic fails when emotions run high. Because to her, love is logic. The proof of alignment. The architecture of trust. Men treat love as a goal. Women treat it as a living process. So when you say, "I love you," it's a statement. When she says it, it's a maintenance ritual. To truly understand a woman's reasoning, you must see love not as romance, but as her primary form of intelligence. The female brain reasons differently because it includes emotion, not excludes it. To her, reason isn't clarity alone, it's connection with meaning. Jung argued that the highest form of intelligence is not pure logic, but balanced intuition when feeling and thought coexist. That's why women can make decisions men call irrational, and later, those same decisions turn out right. She wasn't guessing. She was synthesizing emotions, patterns, unspoken cues. Her brain processes empathy and logic together. That's why she remembers how you said something more than what you said. Why tone means more than truth. You can't teach her to reason like a man, but you can learn to listen like a woman. Because real intelligence doesn't belong to one gender. It belongs to those who can feel and think at once. So, what does all of this mean for you? It means that understanding women isn't about decoding them, it's about awakening yourself. Jung's ultimate message was this: every woman carries the key to a man's unconscious. Through her, he confronts the emotions he denies, the tenderness he buries, the vulnerability he hides. The female brain doesn't oppose the male, it completes it. When you stop seeing women as different and start seeing them as depth, everything changes. You stop arguing, you start understanding. You stop chasing logic, you start listening for meaning. You stop fearing emotion and finally begin to feel alive. So tell me in the comments, what's one truth about women you misunderstood before watching this? And remember, understanding women begins with understanding the woman within you. That's where Carl Jung's wisdom still burns today. If this opened your eyes, subscribe, because the next video will go even deeper into the psychology of connection, emotion, and power.